Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we will discuss about TypeScript. This will be the introductory video where we will talk about the basic types. Now let's get started. So this is a simple JavaScript syntax. We define a variable first name and with assign some string. By default, if you hover the mouse, this file name is of type string because I have created with the TS extension. So we no need to explicitly mention the type. So this is a valid TypeScript syntax as well as JavaScript syntax. So the string type we don't need to explicitly mention. But in case if you want to mention, you can very well specify the proper type as well. String. This particular thing is it is from TypeScript. This is not a valid JavaScript anymore. So if you run using Node.js or some program, it will throw out error or Chrome browser cannot recognize it. So you need a TypeScript compiler to convert this particular program to JavaScript. In that case, this will be removed. This is only for the compile time or during the development time only. This TypeScript is very helpful to help you to avoid some kind of errors. So similar to string, we can have the number type. In this case also, if you don't mention a number is not mandatory, it would be auto-inferred. But just for demonstration purpose, I am giving the number type. And if you want to put explicit type, you're free to do so. So we have boolean. So these are the three primitive types available, which will be used across the board to define a particular, variables. And in this TypeScript, one important thing to mention, remember here that there is no int or float distinction. Because both float, there is no precision defined in the JavaScript syntax. So all integer, float, everything is a number inside JavaScript. So in the TypeScript also, just to mirror the JavaScript concept, it is mentioned the type is number only. So we can print it. This is simple JavaScript concept. Once we type to, I'm using by using the Node.js program, you cannot directly run this file basic.ts, but using the Deno runtime, it is similar to Node.js runtime. You can directly run the TypeScript code as well. And there are different way where you can execute this, where you can compile this TypeScript to JavaScript and run it. There is a, if you install TypeScript, there is a TSC compiler. Oh, sorry. When the name is basic. So if you see here, basic.ts and basic.js, this TypeScript, this is a TypeScript compiler. You can install like npm install TypeScript, then this TSC will be installed. But in the large project, you'll have a different way to set up that compiler using Babel, Webpack, and different mechanism. I'll cover in advanced concept how to configure it. So if you want to see how it will look like, this see the type information will removed. It would be similar like first name age and console.log. It all looks same. But the type information is only for compile time. Let me get rid of it. And I am for directly running, I am using Deno runtime. Deno. So we now need to convert it to into TypeScript to JavaScript to execute it. So deno run, the file name is this is the output, proful 23 true. In this case, if you want to concatenate with a number, which is a valid number, you can concatenate with string. There is no issue as such while concatenating between string and number. That is the reason it is not complaining at this moment. But if you try to assign, if you want to add a string to a number, that is not possible. A string is not assignable to type number. This kind of error you will get. So if you hover the mouse inside TypeScript, you will get this error with this error code. This error code will be helpful to query in the Google, and you will get more information on that. And here also I am using some error diagnostic extension. So in that case, all the errors will be displayed over here. And in the problem also, you will get the same error. This file name and this error, string not assignable. So this is the helpful. So TypeScript only, this is the interesting thing. If you want to do any mistake during the development time, this VS code or this TypeScript you can use in other code editor as well. But because this VS code and TypeScript are both created by Microsoft, they work together very well. But if you want to use Beam or Sublime or any other editor, there are also TypeScript support is there. So this Ismail is a boolean and you can't assign the string. So then also you'll get some errors. And similar to that, first time because it is a string, you can concatenate the number, but you cannot assign a number to the variable. Okay, so these are three basic primitive types. Now we define an object and we put some values city and state. And once we put some default value, like for example, first time string, as I said, like string, number and boolean, we don't need to explicitly mention. Those are auto inferred. In this case of also object type, like city and state, because that data type value is already there, so the type would be automatically defined. For example, here if you see address contain two fields like city and state and string. So these are two mandatory fields. The type also declared. So we need to specify the type exactly. So if you want to set some other value apart from string, then it will complain. In this case, I am trying to assign like false, type boolean. This false is a boolean, is not assignable to type string. But if you don't like this error, so you can mention any type, then this error will be gone away. So when you are learning TypeScript or you are working in some other project, this any would be definitely lifesaver. But it is not recommended to use any everywhere. But most of the time it is very helpful. So slowly you can, you can start using any wherever you are feeling comfortable, wherever you're getting errors and it is not complaining. But slowly you can migrate to a more specific type. In that way, you can incrementally convert your JavaScript code towards TypeScript code. So there is no shame on that. Here I define a function. If you define a function here, like for example, say hi, like in this case, name is a parameter you have to give type, like string. If you have multiple arguments or parameters, you have to give type for each and every attributes or parameter. So we can do some console.log. Here I am calling this say hi, passing the string. So there is no issue here. If I save, all are good. But if I try to pass any number, this will complain. In case of JavaScript code, if you written pure JavaScript code, this 23 also pass. Because JavaScript is very loosely typed, or there is no type as such. So this kind of TypeScript, this kind of restriction or strong type checking will help you to avoid lots of bugs during the development time itself. So maybe in development time it is a bit irritating, but it will definitely help to avoid issues in the production or when actually code executed and your customer started using the website. So the error in the development time is good, not in the runtime. JavaScript is causing lots of runtime issues. So TypeScript is help mitigating couple of issues in the development time itself. Now let me define an array of string. So if you see this type is inferred, this is a very good thing from TypeScript. Like most of the places, if you place some values, the type is auto inferred. So you don't need to explicitly mention the type. And in case of this kind of function signature, you have to mention the argument name equal to string. But if you are using a anonymous function or like cities for each, this is the function. The first is cities as an argument, and you can do any operation on that. In my case, I'm printing this console log value. And here I no need to mention a string explicitly because the parameter itself is a string type. That is the reason you can able to call this to lowercase. If because city is a lowercase type, but you can't call any other function. For example, any other function means like this to fixed. To fixed doesn't exist on string. So whichever the function is available in the string, those function only you can use it. So there is only other good thing is that if you do dot, so this kind of autocomplete will be available. So this feature I like very much. So the TypeScript, the benefit is that you will get the autocomplete and you need to search for this small operation. You need to remember all these things. The length, size, and split, and all these things will be very helpful. So if you want to execute the code, I personally prefer to use this deno runtime. But there are various ways you can execute a TypeScript code. First, you have to compile it to JavaScript, and there are lots of approaches available like Webpack, Babel, ESBuild, and SWC, and there are so many. For my quick learning purpose, you can install the deno and do the way I'm doing it. The Jaipur, Sydney, and London. Okay. And if you don't want to use the arrow syntax, you can write normal function. Both are same, but the idea is just to give that you don't need to specify the type over here. This is not an anonymous function. The function without having any name. So here also you can, this string is auto inferred and you can call all the function using the city. And we'll try to, here I have shown an example, like if we have arguments like separate argument like name, like A's and by comma separated, then you can give the type in that place only. But if you want to pass like object, let's define an object of address, and if you want to pass as an argument here, then it is slightly different syntax. So this sometimes confusing to me, because I always feel inclined to, give this only city, state, only till this point. I don't understand why we need to give this one. My initial confusion about it. But because you can put some default value here as well, like this is also a valid syntax. So, so you want to put some default value in case you are not passing. That's the reason they have restricted not to specify the type or directly, like if you're using object, first you have to destructure it, or you can use like address or whatever you like. This is a destructuring syntax like city and state. Or you can directly give this object name like address and colon, and in the right hand side you have to give the type like city equal to string, state equal to string. Okay, but if you have more object is big, then this type would looks little bit bulky. For that I will explain. There are two different way you can use it. One is type, another one is interface. We'll slowly go into that in few minutes. I'm using this Go code pilot. So if you see that, it is already prompting me to that console city and state. This is very helpful. I'm a bit enjoying this GitHub Go Copilot. It is a really amazing tool. You can try if you want to. So here I'm passing city and state, both a string type, and I'm passing both string. There is no compiler errors. But if you want to pass only one argument, it started complaining. Argument of type city string is not assignable to parameter of type city and state. So there are a bunch of information. Sometimes the TypeScript error code I don't like personally. For this simple example scenario, it is very clear that which field is missing. But if you have like usually in big project, the TypeScript will have like 10, more than 10 fields. Sometimes it get very much clumsy. And once the generics is involved, the error messages are not very helpful. But slowly you'll get used to it. So you can use this error message here, but otherwise if you want to explicitly see here, same message. Or if you run this deno also now it will try to compile it and it will throw this error. Now it is highlighting this nicely. Property state is missing because state is we are not providing, right? That is the same error, and it is highlighting in this line number. And in this case, because both are mandatory or required, so this error is there. But if you want to make a state as optional, then this error will be gone away. If you want to make state, it is very simple. You can put a question mark in the state. So anywhere you want to put a question mark, that will become required to optional. And here, I am trying to print city to uppercase and city to lowercase. Sorry, both are uppercase. But this will be, in my, this VS code is not showing this error, but actually this is error code. Because there is maybe chance like state would be undefined. In this case, like first time, like both are string. So both can be, both will be converted to uppercase. But in this case, like, Jaipur, state is undefined. So you can't do undefined or to uppercase. This should be a compile error. But unfortunately, this VS code is not detecting it, showing it as an error. But if you run like deno, see it is complaining. Object is possibly undefined. These are the very common errors in the JavaScript error, because if you try to access some kind of function from a undefined, then you'll get it will be a runtime error inside JavaScript. But TypeScript is, restricting you in time compile time itself. But unfortunately, VS Code is not showing that. I'm not sure why. Okay. So to fix this error, you have to explicitly check the state is undefined or not. Then you can do that. For example, if you want to, there is a simple way. Here also you can put a question mark. See, Jaipur. This is becoming uppercase, but here is undefined. This is a new feature. It is available in the optional chaining. If this is undefined, you can't directly access, but if you use optional chaining, you can access it. Now let us discuss about union type. In case, let's say, your particular attribute can have multiple type. Because, for example, ID, you are not sure, like it may be a number or it may be a string. So you can give like number or string. This is a pipe symbol. Then when you are calling to the fetch by ID, you can pass both number as well as string. So here both are valid syntax because we have given the union types. This union type is very much helpful in many scenarios once you started developing a bigger project, but it has its own pros and cons. For example, you are passing a number 23, there is a toFix is there. ToFix means it will print like 223.00. Just convert the number up to 2 decimal point. So you know that this 23 has this toFix function, but string doesn't have this toFix function. That is the reason it is complaining. It is saying that property toFix doesn't exist on type string or number. Actually, property toFix doesn't exist on type string. This information I am not sure why it is giving. It is trying it is not available in both the property. But this is a proper error message. A property toFix, property or function, rather function, doesn't exist on type string. A string doesn't contain that one. So if you want to call the string related function, you have to check the type of ID, and you have to specify like if else condition. There is no escaping on that. So if you are using union type, and if you want to, if there is one function which is available in both the number and string, you don't need to check the type. But if it is only available as per string, not in the other type, or vice versa, then you have to use the type if else condition. See, if your ID is string, then you make the uppercase, or if ID is like number, you convert to TypeScript. Let me execute it. See, ID. This ID is equal to 23. Because it is a number, so it converts to 2 decimal point, 23.00. And in other case, it is just converted to uppercase. Now we will define the type alias. As I mentioned here, like address, we can specify the address in this function argument itself, but once your attribute or the number of arguments or parameter would be increased, it would be very difficult to keep on writing here. It will code won't look good. So you can use like type type user is equal to, you can mention a string as well. It is not only needed that you can mention an object only. Instead of object, you can just mention string if you want to have a user as a string, but that doesn't make much more relevance in most of the cases. So most of the object, if you want to define, for example, name and age. So this is a curly bracket syntax. It will define like object, but this is a type. Here there is no actual data. Here you are specifying the type of individual attributes, and you are mentioning the type. So if you see, user has now name and age. Now I define a display user function and a user type. So this is the benefit of that. One very good benefit is that if you do dot operator, so you can see the age and name. This autocomplete is very good. Because of TypeScript, so it is able to recognize user content to fields. And you can put like required, optional, whatever you like. And you can call this display user, and by passing as object signature. These are your actual data. And here in the name is string and age is 23. So because both string and number matching, it is not complaining. But if you try to give it as a string, so it will throw an error. And this type and interface are more or less similar. So the same name and age, you can use the interface also. Type and interface are exactly same in most of the cases. So here also you can, here you have to clearly mention, you have to remember that type user, you have to mention equal to symbol here. Okay, but here there is no equal to. Interface, user interface, curly bracket started directly, and name and age. But once you define that, in the function signature there is no change. User colon, user interface. The way you mention the type, here you mention the interface also. The type is good thing that here you are able to see this argument here in the type hint or suggestion. But interface, you are not able to see that. But both will be behaving exactly same. So also when you are passing the object parameter, there is no difference between the type and as well as interface. So it is up to you which one you want to use. If you feel comfortable using type, you are free to use it. If you want to use interface, you are free to use it. So type and interface is a very interface. There is one difference between the type and interface, that type you cannot extend. Once you define, you can't reopen it to add new properties. So type once you define, definitely in the development time you can do that, but there is no extensibility associated with the type. But in interface by itself, it's always extensible. Or you can create a child class, and there is a different concept how you can extend one interface to a different interface. Following the object-oriented concept. That I'll cover in detail about the interface section. Okay, so the basic difference between the type is not extensible, interface is extensible, and I'll go into deeper when I discuss in further videos. Hope you enjoyed this today video. Have a good day ahead. Bye bye.